Hi, friends. It's Will here, back with another tarot reading. Today, we're going to ask the question, should you keep doing this or should you move on? So think about the context for you, whether it's a relationship or a job or a fight with somebody. Like, should you keep doing it or is it time to move on to something else? Are you going to get anything out of it if you keep at it, or is it time to take some steps in a different direction? So I've chosen 3 different decks and I've pulled the major arcana from each of them. We have the Antique Anatomy Tarot here. That will be number 1. The True Black Tarot. That will be number 2. And the Ancient Italian Tarot. That is number 3. So I'm going to pull a significator card. These are just the majors, okay? I'm going to pull a significator card for each pile, and then you are going to choose one of the 3, depending on which one you think fits best with your current situation. What are you trying to either keep doing or move on from? I mean, this could be a behavior that you're trying to figure out if you should keep doing it or try to do something else. It could be a relationship, a career, a job, any number of things. So for pile 1, we are going to be working with the Lovers. The Lovers for pile 1. So maybe if you're in a relationship and not sure if it's time to break up, this would make sense. Or maybe if you've been keeping someone at a distance for a while, or they've been keeping you at a distance, and now you're wondering, instead of putting my energy into that, should I move on from keeping them at a distance by starting something? So that will be pile 1, the Lovers. Let's see what we get with the True Black Tarot. This one is a little more challenging to shuffle, so it's a little slower for me to shuffle. Okay. The Magician. Pile 2, it's the Magician. This might be your hustle, right? Maybe a job you're doing. Is it rewarding you? Is there something you have been trying really hard to manifest and you're trying to decide, should you keep doing it or should you move on? That would be your pile. For the third option, we will take the Ancient Italian Tarot. The Moon. The Moon. The first thing that comes to mind here is, strong feelings. Do you feel like you are being pulled towards something? Is there some hidden force that's like grabbing onto you and really has been pulling you towards it lately? And you're trying to decide if you should follow it or move on from it, ignore it going forward. This, I could also think, maybe you're in a position where you've been feeling very strongly like down or depressed. I do think, lunacy, of course, you would think of, although nobody would say that nowadays. But when I see the Moon card, I always think of lunacy. This might be your pile if maybe you've been having a lot of feelings lately, depression or anxiety, or just like stuck in your feelings and unable to do stuff. This might be more like, how can you move on from that, and less a should you move on. because I feel like most people would want to move on from that. Although it's also true that sometimes those really deep emotional states can provide a source for creative inspiration. So we will get into all of that. Please choose one of the three piles. The timestamps will be below. You've got the Lovers with Antique Anatomy, the Magician with the True Black Tarot, and the Moon with the Ancient Italian. I will see you in your reading. Okay, group one, welcome to your reading. You chose the Antique Anatomy Tarot along with the Lover's card as the significator. I've gone ahead and shuffled all the major arcana, including Lovers, back into the deck, and I've shuffled it many times. I'm going to now continue shuffling while I think a bit about the question, and then we will lay out some cards. I'm excited to see what we get with the Lovers today and the Antique Anatomy Tarot. This deck is it's very much a pip deck. I wouldn't say that it's abstract because all of the images are quite concrete, but they're not necessarily very scenic. And so that makes for some very open interpretations, which I tend to really like. So you chose the Lovers, which makes me think you're either in a relationship or considering getting into a relationship with someone. And the question is, should you keep doing what you're doing? Or should you walk away from that in order to hopefully find something more fulfilling? So I'll lay the cards out first, and then we'll flip them over and read them. Okay, let's see what we get. To start, we're starting with 4 swords. 4 swords. So immediately I'm thinking here of restrictions that may be put up. I'm thinking of resting, withdrawing from the world, and being on one's own. Obviously, I want to read the rest of the cards, but there's already a theme that's beginning here. We'll see what happens with the rest of them. The theme that's being established is one of being on one's own. So if you are in a relationship, the first thought I have is maybe you all need to take a break. But we've still got a bunch of other cards to read. So we've got the Knight of Rods, also known as the Knight of Wands or batons or staves in other decks. So this is someone, in the context of a relationship, this would be someone who starts relationships but doesn't always follow through on them, love them and leave them type. Someone who can be very passionate and attractive in that sense because they're very social, but and very fiery, right? But this can be someone who isn't good at making a commitment. And of course, that could be you, or it could be your partner. And we've got more blades, and they're increasing from 4 now up to 6. With 6 blades, I'm thinking of adapting to a difficult scenario and also moving on, leaving it behind. So we'll read the other 6 cards, but pretty clearly here, this is saying to me, consider moving on, right? That what you're doing is hurting, right? Swords hurt, and that your partner may not be someone who is down for a commitment, assuming that's what you're looking for, right? If you're not looking for a commitment, then this person could be a whole lot of fun. And if what you're looking for is fun, like a playmate as opposed to like a soulmate, then maybe consider staying with the clear knowledge that this is probably not something that's going to last, unless the other cards say something different. So let's see if they do. This card will connect the first two I turned. It's another knight, this time the knight of blades or swords, right? So we've got two knights together. So for me, court cards represent people of any gender. And the knights are above the pages in the sense that the pages are just starting out doing something. The knights are beginning to achieve something, but they're not yet queens or kings. They haven't solidified their position relative to their suit yet, although they're hopefully headed in that direction. So two knights together are people who are involved in, like I would think with the Knight of Rods, involved in a career, maybe doing some kind of passion project that really they care about. And so that might be occupying their time. The Knight of Blades, I think of someone who is very focused on the mind, the intellect, and their belief system, right? They can almost be fanatical about what they think or believe. And these two can potentially get along very well, but they're both knights who carry weapons, right? The rods and the blades, they can use those to fight. So this could also be a very volatile situation, assuming that these two cards are representing the two lovers from the significator card. But we have another court card here, and it's the King of Rods. And so this is interesting because we've got it right next to the knight. So it is possible that we're talking about three people involved. Maybe we have a love triangle. Or if it's not a love triangle, the King of Rods could be an authority figure over the Knight of Rods who's like maybe getting in the way of the relationship. That could be a boss or a parent, someone with some kind of authority over probably the Knight of Rods because they share the same suit, who might be demanding things or commanding things of the Knight of Rods that's getting in the way of these two forming a relationship. Another way of reading it, though, would be going left to right chronologically. That these two cards represent the same person, and so this person was a king, but they're behaving like a knight. In other words, one of the two of you in the relationship is acting foolishly or acting immaturely, would be a better way to put it. You thought that they were a king, but they're behaving like a knight, right? Like not like an adult, we might say. Well, the picture just gets clearer and clearer, doesn't it? Yeah. Death and judgment. Death and judgment. So, death doesn't necessarily mean death. I think it actually rarely means that, but it does mean a big transition or a transformation, the kind of transformation that, once it happens, it's over. And judgment refers to an awakening, coming out of the abyss, being reborn from the dead. So all of these cards are really saying, move on, right? The only one of these that would suggest being with other people, right? Because I mentioned at the beginning, the Four of Blades really is about putting restrictions around something, particularly yourself, and maybe withdrawing in order to rest, take a break. Judgment, not so much on this card, although on many versions of the Judgment card has many figures in it. Here we just have the single skeleton. But I do think with Judgment, we can see like maybe getting some comfort from friends or other like-minded people, not necessarily like one person who's your partner or lover, right? So a big transition or transformation probably away from this relationship that's causing you to wake up from something, adapt, and move on, right? Maybe even with the Six of Swords, maybe even literally moving, right? Like often this card is depicted with a boat, right? Like people moving on a journey over water. Okay, let's look at the final two cards. 2 coins, so you all are exchanging things with one another, right? The 2 knights or the 3 people, if there are 3, are exchanging things, juggling things with one another, but it's not super stable, right? Like things are up in the air. And there's some foolishness happening here. There's some foolishness going on, which makes me again think back to this idea of the King of Rods behaving like a knight, right? This king needs to grow up, and he's covered here by the Fool card. So taking steps in a new direction, but not really knowing what he's doing or she's doing, right? Because it could be a person who uses any pronouns of any gender. So my recommendation here, if we're thinking about a relationship, should you keep doing what you're doing or should you move on? I think it's worth trying to move on, taking a break from this. Stop trying to juggle things with this person if they're acting foolishly, or if you're the one acting foolishly, then maybe you need to break away from this person for a while in order to get your footing. Make a big transition, wake yourself up, or get the other person to wake up, depending on which side of this you fall. But at the end, it's pretty clearly saying with 6 swords, adapt to a new situation, move on to a new context, a new relationship, a new whatever it is. Okay. Cool. Well, this one was really clear. There's hardly any ambiguity in this reading, at least from my perspective, although maybe you saw something differently than me. If you did, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to know. I'd love to hear other interpretations of these spreads. If this did help you to think in a different way or gave you a point of view that maybe you didn't have before, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know. And I'll end it there. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in your next reading. Okay, group 2, welcome to your reading. You chose the True Black Tarot, and the Magician was your significator. I've shuffled all of the major arcana, including the Magician, back into the deck, and I've shuffled very thoroughly. I'm going to continue doing some overhand shuffling now so that you can see that I'm doing it. And I'll do that while I think for a moment about the question, and then we'll lay out some cards and see what we can determine. The question, of course, is should you keep doing what you're doing, or is it time to move on? And so this could refer to any number of scenarios. Because you chose the Magician as your significator, I'm thinking it's like something you're trying to build or create or manifest in the world, right? Like that's what the Magician does. He's a hustler. He gets stuff done. So this could be like a business you're trying to get off the ground, or maybe it's a degree program in education, or maybe you're working at a particular job and you've been there a while and you're trying to figure out, should you keep doing this hustle or should you be moving on to hopefully greener pastures? Okay, so just a little more of this. All right, that feels pretty good to me. Let me just tap these. These cards like to stick together. Okay, so let's see what we get. I'll lay the spread out first, and then we'll flip the cards over one at a time. Okay, here we go. Last card. So let's flip over the first one. Okay. So it's 7 swords. We're starting off with 7 swords. That's always fun, isn't it? So, should you stay or should you go? This card is going to set the theme, right, for the rest of the reading. And this makes me think you should go, right? I mean, look at this poor little rat, adorable creature with a big sword hanging over it, and 6 other ripping through some fabric in the background there. Like, this looks like a pretty uncomfortable situation and maybe even a dangerous situation. Let's see. Okay, 4 cups. So this suggests that maybe you are not seeing something really great that's right there in front of you. Maybe another opportunity has presented itself or is like there in your world, but you're not recognizing it for the opportunity that it is. And maybe it could get you away from these swords. Are you in a situation where you're feeling bored or distracted, or maybe you're too focused on yourself? That's keeping you from seeing this really great and fulfilling thing that you could be reaching out to, but you're not doing it? Ooh, the devil. So, is this opportunity dangerous also? Or is it like really sexy and exciting? Maybe it's something you've wanted to do, but like you're afraid to publicly announce that it's something you want to do. You're afraid other people would ridicule you for it. Is it something you're afraid that, like, once you get started, you won't be able to stop doing it? That is another possibility with the devil. One other option here, I suppose, because these 2 cards, the 7 of Swords and the Devil, can both refer to deception or lies of one kind or another. And so I'm wondering if this is saying you're in the current situation that you're in or have been in is one in which you're being manipulated or exploited. Others are maybe deceiving you in some way, or God forbid, the situation is that you are forced to deceive others. That is also a possibility here, I suppose. Especially given the magician as the significator. The magician can be a trickster, right? So maybe you're not accepting this other opportunity because what you're worried about is that it's just going to be more of the same. You're in a bad situation, you're being maybe exploited or manipulated, it's uncomfortable or even dangerous. And so you're not accepting the new situation because you're afraid it's just going to be more of the same. Okay, let's flip some more cards and see if we can get some more insight into this. The Knight of Swords. We've got here, Knight of Swords. So that appeared in the previous reading, I think, in the same position, which is noteworthy. So the Knight of Swords suggests you're someone who's like making progress, you're taking action, you're moving forward, you're doing the thing you need to do. Maybe you've picked up one of these swords that was so threateningly wielded at you, and you're learning how to use it. I say especially learning because Knight of swords are the suit of intellect and the mind, and the knight is someone who's making progress on it. So, are you figuring out how to make your way in this, whatever the context is for you, where you're trying to decide if you should leave it behind or not? You're learning how to make it work. And that suggests, well, maybe you don't want to leave it behind, right? Especially if this other new opportunity that's being presented to you might just end up being more of the same. Like the grass is always greener, but if you're progressing in your current situation, why would you throw that away to deal with the devil, right? Is this making sense? The Chariot. So you're driving ahead forward and you're getting some successes. That is what this is telling me. So these four cards together are actually giving me a pretty strong picture that even though there has been some tough stuff going on, it might make sense to stay with your current situation. It could even out. But let's read these and see what they say. So what connects the Four of Cups to the Devil? 9 batons and this very defensive and I think wounded wolf who is at their wits' end and really can't take any more of what is being dealt out to them. Underneath that wolf, well, we have the Ace of Swords, a new sword to pick up. But you've already picked up a sword here. You picked up one of these 7 and you're using it. So does it make sense to put that down and pick up another new sword to come over here with the devil? I'm going to say no. I don't think so. Let's pull the last 2 cards and see what they give us. Above these 4 cups, we've got the Ace. I think this is the Ace of Wands in this deck. Let's see. Yes, it has to be. Okay, so another ace. All right, ace, ace, beginning, beginning. And underneath, 6 wands or batons in the back, and 6 of them. A lion. Okay, let me think about these for a moment. I'm thinking about, there's a lot of imagery here that is racing through my mind. The rat, you probably don't want to be a rat. Not that there's anything wrong with rats, they're adorable. But wouldn't you rather be a lion, right? And a wolf would be great too, but not a wolf who's backed into a corner like this. So here's what I'm seeing. You have great opportunity to grow here because you are learning in your current position. You're driving ahead forward and you're transforming from a mouse into a lion and reaching a point of stability. You might feel very motivated, and I suspect you do feel very motivated to try something new because we've got these 2 aces, and just for the fact that you are here listening to a reading about whether or not you should move on makes me think there's some part of you that wants to move on, right? That's obvious. But be careful because you seem to be on a steady, right? The center of everything here is a 4 and 4 cups. So steady and potentially fulfilling, although maybe you're bored is also the other possibility here. Maybe you're just bored with your current situation. Like you've figured out how everything works. You've picked up the sword and now you can wield it. And so you're like, okay, I did it. Now what, right? So if you do decide to move on from the current situation to a new one, I think you're going to find that you've got to pick up a whole new sword. Like the sword that the things you have learned before have served you really well, but now you've got to learn how to use this pen, right? This quill pen and a new sword. And it's going to put you at your wit's end, right? You're probably going to feel like a wolf backed into a corner defensive, exhausted, no doubt. And instead of dealing with 7 swords, you're going to have to deal with the devil. So it might be very tempting to do something new and exciting. And I would never tell you to do it or not. You obviously have to make your own wise decisions. The goal of this is to get you to see it from a different perspective. And so that perspective is just because it's new doesn't mean it's going to be better. You're going to have to really push yourself and challenge yourself. It's probably going to wear you out. It might pay off, and it will probably be a lot of fun. Or if not actually fun, then like will give you the kind of ego boost that a lot of people, I think to some extent all people, can find very seductive and enjoyable, right? But you can also get stuck in all of that. Like the devil gives you bad contracts, right? Be careful of signing the contract that the devil gives you. So my recommendation here would be probably stick to what you know for now. Because this other opportunity that if you're considering like leaving your current position to walk away, if there's a clear other opportunity in front of you, I would be really wary of that. And I would seriously give it some thought, investigate it before you agreed to do it. It seems like if you can find a way to get over any boredom by maybe learning something new, that might make more sense. Like if you've picked up the sword, if you've learned how to get through conflict in your current situation and how to communicate with others, maybe the next thing is to pick up this pen, right? And like learn another aspect of the business or pick up another, like learn how to work in another department or something like that, rather than just leaving it and moving on because you can see who's waiting for you up there. Okay, I'll end it there. Let me know if you interpreted something in this spread differently than how I did here. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Consider liking and subscribing if this gave you any kind of insight into your situation. And I will see you in your next reading. Hello, Group 3, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Ancient Italian Tarot with the Moon as your significator. I have shuffled all of the major arcana, including the Moon, back into the deck. And now I'm going to continue shuffling so that you can see me doing it before laying out a spread. And you chose the Moon, which is a really interesting card, I think, to come up in the context of the question. So the question, of course, was, should I keep doing what I'm doing or should I move on to something else? And given the Moon as your significator, it makes me think like the path before you is not at all clear. You can't figure out where things are going. And so I would sort of modify the question a little bit. And it's not so much like, should I keep doing what I'm doing or move on, but how should I move on or how can I move on? What can I do to make things clearer? I think most people, most of the time, wouldn't want to stay in a moon card phase forever. They would experience it and say, okay, I hope I learned something from this, and now I'm ready to get out of it. So how can you get out of your moon phase? That will be our question to work with here, given the card that you chose for the reading. All right, let me lay these down, knock on them, and cut. Great, and I'll lay out the cards in the whole spread prior to flipping them over. Beautiful cards. I love these. Okay, and we'll set that aside. Okay, great. So let's see what we've got to work with here. 8 coins. So this makes me think of you're putting a lot of effort into something. This could be a job. It isn't necessarily a job, but it's something that has to do with your material reality, right? This could be your daily routine. This could be something related if you're studying. It could be something related to that. It could be related to childcare, anything like taking care of your home, your living space, your well being, all of that. And the eight makes me think of uniformity, right? Like you've been doing the same thing over and over and over, and you've probably gotten pretty good at it, but you might be exhausted, you might be bored out of your mind. Nine cups. Well, in the center of the spread, nine cups. This is sometimes known as the wish card, as many of you probably already know. This is about being very satisfied with what you've got, attaining happiness, at least individual personal satisfaction, not necessarily involving another person or other people, though. It tends to be an isolated, solitary happiness or fulfillment. It also suggests that you are coordinating or organizing or lining up. See the way that the cups are stacked very neatly, your feelings, emotions, and relationships. So, for someone who's chosen the moon, there's a lot of order happening so far. Everything looks very neat and tidy and ordered. Ooh, and still it does. So, eight swords makes me think of defensiveness, your your uniformity, you're doing things carefully, you're getting into a habit, and keeping things coordinated is starting to hurt you, right? Your coins have turned into swords and they cut. So maybe you chose the moon because what you want in your life is a different reality than the one you've got now. Because the one you've got now is, at least on the surface, very orderly. It makes sense to people. You know what's going to happen, but there's no variation here. We've got eight, we've got nine stacked neatly. You're satisfied, or seem to be. We'll see what's under it. But your nice, neatly stacked round coins turn into eight swords that choke this little plant that's trying to grow. So, what connects these? Okay, two cups. Well, this, of course, makes me think of a partnership, a relationship of some kind, not necessarily romantic, although it could be. There's some other person involved. Probably, almost certainly, some other person involved. And six batons, you are working with that person to collaborate to build something, right? You and this other person are working on, like, building a life together, we might say. Could be career related because of the batons. Hmm. Hmm. You know, I'm flipping these over and I'm like waiting for the card that says, boo, here it is. Here's the problem. The closest we see is this, but like these are lovely together, right? So everything looks good. I mean, I would kill to have these cards come up for me. This looks really nice. We've got two cups turning into nine cups. We've got the six of batons. Okay, let's pull some more. Okay, so the swords are coming in at the end of the spread. All right, so it's starting to get clearer now. Starting to get clearer now. So over here, You are working with someone to coordinate a life together. You're collaborating to build something beautiful and fulfilling and satisfying and materially relevant, right? Probably with another person, could be a group of people, but it's too orderly. Everything is too orderly. Everything is stacked up too neatly, right? So that your 9 cups turn into 9 batons. You feel like maybe you're doing too much of the work and you need, like, the other person isn't, or people are not contributing their fair share. And so you're having to balance all of these batons and you're exhausted and it's not fair. Uh, and so some conflict is starting with one sword that very quickly is turning into 8. All the good results that you were building together with this person or people are turning sour, and you're feeling defensive about it. You're feeling like people aren't helping you, and that's causing the problem. So let's check the last 2. 5. This is about a breakthrough. So, like, you've had it. Things seem to be going really well. And then one day, bam, you're in your feelings and you can't control them anymore. So you're the King of Cups, someone who's very good at having power over their relationships, their feelings, and their emotions. They can have very difficult feelings like moon card kind of feelings, depression, anxiety, all like grief, feelings like this is never going to go anywhere, like we're going to fail, all of these bad moon feelings, or just being totally uncertain and unsure, like where's the happiness? Where's the warmth? Where are we going? Where's the sun, right? This person can hide all of that. They're very, very good at hiding all of that, the King of Cups is. But eventually it comes out, right? Nobody can keep those feelings suppressed forever. This person can do it for quite some time. They're better at it than other people, right? They can make other people very comfortable because they never necessarily seem to have any bad feelings coming up. But it doesn't last forever, and eventually it looks to me like it explodes, right? So we've got this 9 of Cups. Everything looks like it's going really well. It's all coordinated together. Everyone's satisfied, or at least you appear satisfied. But underneath it, you're only appearing that way because you're so good at managing your feelings publicly with other people. And that can't last, and they break through, right? And you pick up your sword and you realize that everything you've been doing here has all the work tasks have been growing from 6 to 9, and they're landing on you, right? You're this one baton in the center with all these other laced around it, and you're supposed to be trying to carry all of that, and it's just too much, right? Like it's just too much to handle. So, should you keep doing what you're doing or should you move on? Well, you shouldn't keep doing what you're doing. You can't. That's really obvious to me, and nobody could. So, whether you should move on or not is another question. One option would be to say, is there a way that you can repair this? Is there a way that you could fix this? Because you're represented here by the King of Cups, which again could be a person of any gender. It just means someone who has great power over their feelings, emotions, and relationships. And since relationships are a big part of this spread, it makes me think like maybe there is something salvageable here. Okay. But so in other words, moving on in this spread may not mean actually leaving right? But it does mean moving on from a pretty clear pattern of behavior that absolutely is not going to keep working, of you just bottling up your emotions until eventually they explode and come out because you're doing too much on your own. So, one response here would be for me to say, use this sword not to start conflict. Don't let things bottle up and then have an outburst like in the Five of Swords. Use this sword to communicate, right? So, because you're the King of Cups, you're very good at keeping your emotions in check, but nobody can do it forever. So, unfortunately, I think the king needs to put down their cup where they're holding all their emotions and grab this sword. Because right now, you're feeling like everything's sharp and prickly and overburdened and exhausted. You're defensive. And it is possible, though not certain, that if you can communicate how you're feeling, that maybe you could get back to a Nine of Cups situation, right? There's a lot of optimism and promise in having the Nine of Cups in the center of the spread, right? And there's not a card like the Chariot or the Six of Swords or the Eight of Cups that would indicate clearly leaving. So that's why I'm suggesting maybe it's not a question of moving on and leaving things behind, but a question of moving on from a pattern and rearranging things in the current situation in order to make it better, and get these cups back, these beautiful 9 cups back. Okay, I will leave it there. I hope that you got something helpful out of this reading. I hope it helps you see things from a different angle, a different point of view, a different perspective. If you did get something out of it, please consider liking and subscribing to give me some feedback and let me know that you're enjoying these videos. And if you interpreted something different here than I did, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in your next reading.